Hello and welcome. I'm Sofiko and this is Creative Minds Speaking, a podcast where I have conversations with creative industry professionals, bringing into the spotlight those incredible people who are behind the scenes of art and entertainment is the main goal of this podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to chat with JJ Connor. Currently, he's based in Los Angeles. He is founder at the artist management company called Faceless Management. And last year, he spent as a digital marketing associate at mtheory company. Hi, JJ. Thank you for finding time and being on the podcast today.
Hey, what's up? Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I've seen a lot of my fellow Berkeley people do this, so I've been waiting for the call up to the big leagues.
There is no way I wouldn't invite you here, JJ. So, could you please share how was your journey in the music industry so far?
I guess, like everyone, I was like a kid who developed a passion for music, and it was just a passion for a long time. Like I was always the kid who wanted to be the one finding the music and giving it to my friend group. I never thought that that was anything weird. Like I never thought that it was a passion. I just thought it was something that everyone liked to do or something. But anyway, so I went to college. Didn't really know where I wanted to go with my life. Like the clock was ticking, and my parents were like, "We got to figure out what you want to do and all this stuff." So I don't know. I was going to school for economics. At one point, I was trying to be a dentist. I don't even know why, where that came from. That was a weird chapter for me. I didn't. Anyway, so I ended up deciding that music was something that I wanted to do. I just started putting it out there, like saying it out loud. I know that people talk about that all the time, speaking things into existence, but it really did. Like that's what you got to do, especially in the beginning. So I was talking to one of my buddies at my sister's wedding. We were just having this deep conversation about what we want to do with our lives. I feel like all those kids at that age at 20 are stressed out, so that's like common topic of conversation. So we were just like kind of opening up to each other, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I want to work in music." Anyway, that was just a conversation we had, and he didn't really respond. Like it was just a normal conversation. Nothing ever happened, and 6 months later, that same guy who I was talking to remembered that I had said that and tagged me in a Facebook post of this young manager in LA who was looking for college students to be on a street team. And he tagged me. He's like, I think this could be something that you're interested in. Obviously, I jumped on the opportunity. I emailed the guy, and he was like a mutual friend. Obviously, that guy knew him, so he introduced us, and I got on the street team while I was in college. Like a lot of people in the music industry, street teams are a good way to get in. The manager was managing this artist named Zhu, this DJ. It was before Zhu had put any music out, so he sent me a box of all these stickers and promotional posters and stuff. And all I did, my whole job, I just went around my college campus and put the stickers up, and that was cool. And I took pictures and sent them back. Um, I thought I was like killing it in the music industry. um, so yeah, so after about a year of that and sharing links on socials and all that stuff, I asked him if I could intern for him in LA. I got a quick no from his assistant. I don't even think the
Mm-hmm.
email got to him. And then I said something like, I don't know the digital equivalent of getting on your hands and knees and begging, but I did something like that over email. um, and I ended up getting a response from him, and he asked me a few questions. And long story short, I ended up going there for the summer to LA, which was insane to me. Like I landed in LA, and it's like, wow, this is really happening right now. This is wild. So he's a artist manager. He works in electronic music, which is what really love. It's kind of my like niche. And from that moment that I got into the house, it was a bunch of these guys, 6 or 7 guys who lived in a house in LA, just managing dope artists, and I knew that that's exactly what I wanted to do. So that kind of started the whole chain reaction of where I am now. I know that's a long-winded way of starting the story, but it kind of sets the stage for
Mm-hmm.
why I'm so into management and stuff, and being able to see like a 26 or 27-year-old guy be super successful, managing cool artists on his own independently. It just lit a fire in me. So that's always what I've wanted to do since. Um, but yeah, so then I went back to college, had no idea what I was doing, and I just knew that I wanted to manage artists. Um, and I started reaching out to people on SoundCloud, like random producers from all over the world, just like, yo, I just want to be your manager. And it was so cringy looking back, but eventually there's nothing else you can do, like you have no leverage. So I would just basically tell them, I'll work for you for free. You'll get, I'm assuming what I can offer you is better than nothing. I'm not positive, but
Yeah.
I think it's better than nothing. So you don't pay anything and you can get something that's at least net positive. So I started doing that, and one thing led to another. I started working with a couple artists. The way I was thinking about management was like, in order to build a network as an independent person, you have to have some sort of product. Like I can't just hit up a record label and be like, "Hey, I'm JJ." And that's the
Mm-hmm.
whole. You have to be like, "Hey, I'm JJ. I have to work with this artist who I think would be a great blah blah blah." So I needed to get something that I could attach myself to start networking and building contacts out. So I did that with management for like a year, really small artists, whatever. And then I got a job working for a music blog in Denver after graduating college. All the while, I was like trying to do this management thing. That's like been the one thing that I've always tried to do. I've needed jobs in the meantime because management's really hard to make money in the beginning. So I've had a bunch of jobs, but eventually ended up at after that job, I ended up at Berkeley where we met, um, which was sweet. It was like the coolest year ever, right? It was pretty sweet. Living in Valencia. And then I ended up getting a job through Berkeley, like almost directly through Berkeley. In the last semester of school, every Friday, as you know, we'd have someone from the music industry come and lecture us, and then we could go out and grab drinks with them, or they'd have some sort of post lecture thing where we could all hang out. I got introduced to this guy named Ed Pito. It was weird, man. Like that, like couple years, everything was just aligning. Like I had applied to this company, mtheory, earlier that day, and then he comes. I just was a cold application, and then he comes and we're out to drinks, and he's like, "Yeah, I do consulting for this company called mtheory," and I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." So I told him that I just applied, and we had been like kind of bantering at drinks, getting along well. And he said, "Yeah, send me your resume." So then he just kind of put it to the top of the pile at M Theory, and I ended up getting the job like a month later, which is just wild because I didn't even want to go to those drinks, but he
Yeah,
sometimes
I
you gotta just
remember. I
put
remember
yourself.
I was there, and I think when he mentioned M theory, one of our friends he texted you, right? So you could come and
That's
talk to
yeah,
her.
exactly. That was the truth. Yeah, I just remember. I wasn't even at the drinks. Like I had told him I applied to M Theory, and then Ed mentioned it, and then John was like, "Dude, get your ass down here." This guy just talked about M theory. So then I sprinted downstairs. They were luckily right outside the corner. That's
Yeah.
so funny. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I just remember being really cagey about. Everyone was getting competitive at the end of Berkeley. Like everyone wanted jobs. Everyone just wanted a job. So it got competitive, and there's only an X amount of jobs in the music industry. So I was being really protective about the job. In my head, I was like, I'm not going to tell anyone because I really want this job. And I decided to not do that. And I wanted to share it with at least my good friend. Told John and Rohan. And literally 10 minutes before they went down, I was like, yo, I
Hmm.
applied. And then they knew M Theory because I said that. It's just one of those things you always get. Like, I think it's more beneficial to be open and for helping each other. Like, I did it with the intentions of maybe they could get the job too, or there's internships available. And then it ended up like coming back right around. In a mat, that was a quick karma. That was like a 15-minute karma. Sometimes karma takes long. That was instant karma, which is sweet.
It's very sweet. I love it. So, as we mentioned already, you spent last year as a digital marketing associate at
Mhm.
mtheory. So, can you tell us how was it? What was the job about? What is mtheory is about, and what responsibilities you had there?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start with, I guess, M Theory in general. So M Theory is a company that basically what they do is it's kind of like a co-management company, but it's like an artist management services kind of consulting company. So let's say you manage a roster of five artists, and you're growing and you're growing. And the things about artist management is that cash flow is so sporadic. Like it can depend on because you're getting paid when the artist gets paid. There's no like in your label, your money, your music is always generating money, and then you pay out the artist semi-annually or quarterly or whatever it may be. But when you're an artist manager, you're getting paid when the artist gets paid. So anyway, um, M Theory, the founders of M Theory realized that that was a big problem in scaling management companies because in order to scale, you need cash. You need to be able to pay up employees salaries and fund new projects and all that stuff. So basically what they did is they created a company in which they go on deals with management companies. They can take on their entire roster or select, it depends on every deal, but what they do is they go on like a co-management deal. So when you sign with M Theory, you M Theory has a deal with the artist manager, so they're doing some sort of revenue split, and then they can have access to all of M Theory's resources. So a lot of the M Theory people are extremely well connected, or they have the financial backing. So, and they also have like people where I was like lower down on the employee level that can be assigned to your team. So now you can have three people on the artist team that you really need, or three or four or five, plus all of the background that M Theory can afford. Like in terms of connections and industry plugs and things like that. So it's a really interesting company. The business model, it's like the way I describe it is when you're an artist manager, one of the unforeseen benefits, like obviously being able to scale and getting people, but what makes M3 special is like when you're working with an artist and you're their actual manager, like you found them and you're obviously if your artist is successful and you've discovered them, there's usually a long time between that. You're obviously super close with your artist, and with that comes a lot of things that a lot of responsibilities or other things that aren't necessarily about music. Like you become their friend and confidant, and there's a lot of extra things that you have to deal with that isn't what you would think an artist manager is. Like, oh, I broke up with my girlfriend, I'm so depressed, or I don't know, that's just a random example, but anything like that that
Mm-hmm.
can honestly clog your workflow and your bandwidth. You only have so much bandwidth. So with M Theory, it's kind of hands off in that department. Because they already have their manager. So it allows M Theory to kind of take two steps back and look at the whole project with more of like a scientific lens or a fine tooth comb, and you can without all the distractions of like booking flights or like those immediate necessities, they can like pull the curtains back, look at 12, 18, 36 months, and then reverse and look at the goals and then kind of reverse engineer them to today. It's cool. It's a little bit hands off, which I like to be hands on with artists, but yeah, that's another story. But in terms of what I did there, so they actually have like a kind of a label, like a distribution arm of the company now, where they distribute. It's kind of similar mindset to the artist management. So like let's say we're like a distributor essentially, but we do label services and things. So for example, we distribute all Future Classics music, which is Flume's record label, but they have a bunch of other artists as well. So all of their music comes through the M Theory pipeline, which gets marketed to DSPs and distributed, of course. So that's kind of where I ended up falling. It's not something that I really knew in Berkeley that I wanted to do, but yeah. So I ended up on the digital team. I'm doing DSP marketing, which is basically whenever there's releases coming out through the M Theory distribution pipeline, they have to be marketed to Spotify, to Apple, to all these different platforms to make sure that they're getting the playlist love that they need or getting the exposure that they need on those platforms. So that was something that I did for the past year. It's pretty interesting. Like most people don't even know what a DSP is. Like my family, I have to tell everyone what that is. Obviously, you and I do, but so there, most
That's
people like,
another thing, explaining to our friends and family what we are doing.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like at working in the music industry, it's an interesting industry because almost everyone interacts with it on a daily basis, like fans. You know, like everyone is deeply in as far as they're concerned, deeply embedded in this industry, and it's a huge part of their life. Unlike other industries like airlines or something, obviously we use them, but it's not like a passionate thing that the users have. They may come in contact with it frequently, but for an industry where so many people engage with it and it's a huge part of their life, no one has really a clue how it actually works. They just see the
Mm-hmm.
song on their Spotify and they're like, "Oh, there's this fruit that I can just grab," but they don't understand that
Yeah.
that tree was planted 6 years ago, and then it's been a team of people watering this tree so that 6 years later, this beautiful song fruit can just fall in front of your face. But I don't know, it's interesting. So
Yeah.
try. I don't just made that up, that metaphor, but I don't know if that makes sense. But
It makes in one of the goals of my podcast is to show those people who are behind the scenes and like kind of explain what we are doing and how much work it is in the music
mhm,
industry. So
yeah,
I'm happy you
yeah,
mentioned it.
for sure. It's crazy. Like, yeah, it's kind of crazy that nobody knows. Or they go to a show, they see a show and this amazing hour and a half. And to them it's an hour and a half. But to the people who made that team, it could be 2 years that they were working on that show for an
Mhm.
hour and a half.
Mhm.
Just the music industry, it's like an iceberg. There's this pretty like thing on top of the water, but there's this giant underbelly of millions of or thousands of people working to make it happen. It's cool. I kind of
Yeah.
forget what we were talking about before that. So yeah, I mean, it was that's a great job. Like, it's really outward facing. Like, you get to build relationships with people at DSPs, and you're constantly on the phone. It's kind of sales, It's sales. The
Mhm.
product is the
Mhm.
song, um, and you need to build relationships with the people. Generally, the way it works is you'll have label reps. Your company will have a label rep X at Spotify, for example, and then you just have to manage and build that relationship with them, and get them involved and invested in what your artists have going on, and letting them know that it's not just, hey, we need the cover of New Music Friday. It's, hey, we're doing X, Y, and Z outside of Spotify in order to bring new fans into your ecosystem. So it's like this symbiotic relationship rather than this transactional relationship. Um,
Mhm.
and that's something I think that separates a good DSP marketer from a not great DSP marketer. Something where it's like quid pro
Totally.
quo rather than, hey, please give me the cover of this playlist. Here's the image, for the cover, being like really leading them on. Here's the image if you need anything, if you need it for anything. But yeah, letting them know how you're benefiting them as well is huge.
Yeah, thank you for such a big answer. You literally covered everything about M theory I wanted to ask.
If I'm talking
Y
too much, I know this is a
No,
podcast,
no,
so that
no,
probably doesn't
no,
even make
it's
sense,
great.
but
It's great. I love
okay.
when my guests talk a lot.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you really like a hands-on approach, and that's what
Mhm.
you've been doing for many years already. You're founder of a management company, Faceless
Yeah.
Management. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah. I guess to answer your first question, like the hands-on approach, I don't know. It's probably not for everyone. I know a lot of people that I've talked to in the music industry, like they say I would never manage an artist. Like I would never do that with my life. There's so much other stuff that goes into it. And the artists are such divas and blah blah. But at the end of the day, for me, having knowing that I was there from the creation of the song and helping with like notes and production, and then finding a vocalist for the producer, and then tweaking the lyrics and building this with the artist back and forth. When that song comes out and you hear it in a show, or you people are hitting you up on socials, like it's a much different feeling than having sent it to blogs as a PR person. Not to discredit any of those, but like I just feel much more connected to the whole process, and it just seems like you have a lot more ownership of it as a manager than you would as any other. I don't want to say one thing in specific, but I think any other position,
Yeah.
which is something that I find really satisfying. And maybe it's selfish or something, but I want to be as involved as possible in
That's what
most
you
of the
love. No, it's good. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it depends on the artist. Obviously, like you can I've worked with a handful of many artists, but in terms of management, they all have different degrees of how much shit they're gonna take from a manager or notes or whatever. So you just have to feel that balance, and I try to ride the line as close as I can and get my words in there. But if they're like, "Yo, I got this. I don't want notes," then you have to kind of let them be. But yeah, in terms of the hands-on approach, that's why it's just the most tangible, instant feedback and feels good when things go good. But it also pendulum swings both ways. And when things go bad, you're like, shit, I had something to do with that for sure. So it's a double edged sword.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of Faceless, I work with two. We manage three artists. I work with two. Well, my partner works on the other one, and then so there's one that we both work on alone, not alone, but that we run point on, and then he runs point on Liho. I run point on trails, and then we kind of work very very closely together on our newest artist, Jero. So, what do you want to know about these guys? Like what we have going on, or how we do it, or what?
Yeah. Maybe how you even decided to start the company. Maybe let's start from the very
Yeah,
beginning.
for
Because
sure.
you started it before going to Berkeley, so you didn't really have that much knowledge and experience at that point.
Oh yeah.
How did you start it, and how did you find your first acts? How did you discover these artists, and
Hmm.
how did the process go of like getting in touch with them and like building this relationship to the point that they were like, yes, we want to work with you.
Okay, for sure. Um, so I mentioned it earlier briefly, but when I was in college, I got back from that internship, and I was like, I really want to be an artist manager. I was actually reading through some old Facebook messages with one of the guys there, and I was maybe 20, 21, right when I got back, and I was just like, man, I know this is the job for me. Like I just got to figure out a way to do it. Like I really, this is the only thing I want to do. Which I was just reading it yesterday, which was just so funny because I'm doing it now, at least to some degree. So it was cool to see that. It was such a little guppy, but yeah, so I just started DMing people on SoundCloud. Eventually I found this guy. His name was Mindsight. He was a very small German producer, and I reached out and I said what I said. I said like, I'd love to help you out. I don't really know what I'm doing. I didn't say I don't know what I'm doing. I fake it, and I told them I worked for this manager last summer who has these huge acts, and that was enough to get me in the door. And then I started trying to do anything I could, and that I sent some pretty cringy emails that I have in my in my inbox, where like I just would email legitimate people in the music industry. Like I don't know how I would get their email, and I would just email them like this super long detailed email like out of the blue, and I look at it now and it's just the most embarrassing thing ever, but you
I
literally
mean, we all start somewhere.
yeah, it's crazy. Like I forget who it was, but I was like, "This guy is the next huge thing. Like, you really need like get on our team now for the opportunity of a life or something." I don't even know what I said, but when I read that, I like wanted to crawl in a hole. Like years later, but yeah, I literally did not know what I was doing. But the thing is that you learn while you go. That's the thing. There's no school. I mean, we went to Berkeley for man this stuff. Before that, it was years. There's no school for this stuff. There really isn't. Even in those classes, like I loved every second of it. But doing you're gonna learn so much more from just doing it. That's the one thing. If anyone's listening who's thinking about getting into the music industry, like You just got to do it.
Yeah.
There's no
And
other way.
about that, I feel like sometimes because I didn't have any music experience before, I mean, on the business side, before going to Berkeley. And because you did, sometimes you would ask such smart and deep questions that I like, they never even crossed my mind because I never did this. And I was like, oh my God, how did he even think about it? And I think because you did have some experience before, you probably get even more like advantage of Berkeley School than even I did. I guess. I don't know.
You mean like got more out of it?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I just think that that stuff is all great. Like learning about the theory and I think contract law and classes like that are super important. But and then you can't really learn that unless you learn it from someone, you know. But something like artist management, it's such a obviously you need to have a good artist and a good legs to stand on, but it's such a feel type of thing. Like you need to feel
Mm-hmm.
out how you're going to be communicating with people and where to push and where to pull and where you need to flex your muscle as the manager and where you need to like let things go. And it's definitely something that you can't learn without
Mm-hmm.
doing it. It's such a feeling and I've never even really thought of it before this conversation, but now that I'm trying to like verbalize it, it really is something that you need to just get familiar with and get into a flow and rhythm and figure out what works for you, like what plays off your personality and the way that you communicate with people. Are you really salesy? Are you more like sending little one liners, like teasing? I don't even know, but it's something that you can't really learn in school. So artist management, obviously I'm a stan, like I love artist management, but um, I think it really is something that you should do if you're trying to get in the music industry. You learn, you touch every facet of the artist world, which is booking agents. You need to know a little bit about touring. You need to know a little bit about record labels. You can build your network. You need to know about who, like A&R, like, oh, my artist is this size and we need a vocalist who has this feel. Like I need to be the one who can recommend those things to the artist. So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like a crash course, it's definitely one of the best things you can do. I think finding the artists is less important. Finding the perfect artist when you start is less important than just like starting. But
Yeah,
anyways,
just manage somebody.
yeah, just manage your. Does your brother play piano? Just manage him or something. Does he play the banjo? Start hitting up record lit. No, don't do that. But unless he's really good, of course, conquer the niche. But
So once you find these artists, how did you build the relationship with them?
yeah, so I mean, it's weird. So in the beginning, I think something to note is like when you're independent, you need to leverage everything that you get. Every opportunity can't be wasted and it needs to be leveraged for a bigger opportunity. That's the way I've always approached. Like since I got that internship, since I was on the street team, I knew that that was my only opportunity to get in the music industry because I don't know anyone. I'm from Chicago. Like I'm so far from LA or New York. But I knew that that was my shot to get in. So I knew that I needed to crush that and leverage and turn that into a bigger opportunity, which at the time was that internship, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I turned that internship into this job in Denver because I like sold it up and made it seem like it was this big thing, even though it was a great internship for someone like at that age. But then I turned that thing into Berkeley. You know, I sold that all that experience into getting into Berkeley, and then I sold the Berkeley stuff into the job at mtheory. So I think that that's always the way that my mind works is what's the next what door is this door going to unlock when I walk through. I think that that's super important, especially. So the reason I bring that up is because with management, it's the same exact thing. So like, I got I got that internship, right, and then I used that to get in the door with the initial artists, and then you can work with them for a little. So that guy I started working with, and then the success that I had there, I immediately like got a new artist that was bigger because I was able to convince them that I was worthy. And then you just keep doing that and you can keep working with bigger and bigger artists. So started working with this small guy and then he introduced me to this artist named Trails who I work with now. He was like Trails has been, I gotta say, shout out Trails. He's been the one who he's so incredibly talented and everyone fucks with him. So he kind of fell into my lap in a way, and it opened like all the opportunities for me because everyone fucked with him in the electronic music scene, and anyone that I reached out to because his music was so good, it was like a master lock to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone would respond to me, and I was able to. Trails allowed me to build the whole. There would be no like Faceless if there wasn't for Trails. So shout out Tomek. But but yeah, so I worked that into that, and then in signing Trails, and then Trails, like I said, opened up all these doors. Allowed us to sign our most recent artist, who I actually signed when we were at Berkeley. His name is Jero. He's a melodic house producer from Belgium. He's the man. Really funny guy too, and really good producer. We're super excited about him, and like, yeah, I think that that's the biggest thing is just never settling, like doing the best that you can with what you have at the moment, but never settling and trying to keep cracking the door open and then shoving yourself through to the next level. And then
Mm-hmm.
eventually, if you keep leveling up, you can just
That's a
retire
great
on a beach
advice.
somewhere
Yeah.
like you in a
Level
Zoom
up.
call with your background. That's my goal. What you're doing in this Zoom call is my goal in life.
You're very close to that.
No, no,
What would you say is your the proudest moment as a manager so far?
I don't know. I mean, before this year, my first really big proud moment was when Trails played a showcase at Amsterdam dance event, and I like flew to Amsterdam to meet him for the first time. And even though it was like a 30-minute set and there was like not a lot of people there because we were the first show, I was just like, holy shit, I'm in Amsterdam right now because of a series of emails that I had sent over the past year has led me to be in Amsterdam. Like, this is just blowing my mind. So that was the first one, and then this year we had a huge year planned for Jero. He was supposed to be going on tour with Lane Eight, this dope melodic. He's kind of like the godfather of the sound that Jero makes, and he's taken him under his wing, and he's been like a mentor to him. And he releases his music on Lane Eight's label, and he's super supportive. He's the best. Shout out Lane Eight. And he was supposed to go on tour with him all across Europe and play sick venues. Like, we were playing Printworks was sold out in London, which is like one of the most iconic venues in London. He was getting booked for Tomorrowland in Belgium, which is like 20 minutes from where he lives, which is like
Wow.
his dream, like his end of his career dream was like, one day I want to play it. And a year into our relationship, we were booking Tomorrowland. It was so crazy, but obviously everything got shut down. So we'll have to do this again in a year, and I'll give you some big proud moments. But for right now, we're just keeping our heads down, and he's writing an album. Trails is writing an album too. So we're just in like super creative mode right now and just putting the business stuff on the side. We're just trying to huddle up, make some cool shit. Then we can debut
Yeah, I
it
feel
to the
like
world.
yeah, it's the best time for just writing the music and just
Totally.
creating.
It's gonna all turn out emo because everyone's so emo right now. Like, both albums are just gonna be dark, moody. No,
It
maybe
is what
Trails
it is.
though. Yeah,
And recently, Jero had did a remix with the Petit Biscuit. Am I pronouncing his
I don't
name
know if
right?
anyone knows how to say that right. Some people say petite biscuit, petit biscuit if you're European and cool. Us Americans say petite biscuit. It's not, it doesn't really roll off the
But
tongue
that's
as well.
also amazing. This artist is so big.
Yeah, I mean that it's just a that one is a proof of knowing sometimes knowing the right people is and being in the right place at the right time is what can make those kind of moonshot marketing things that can really
Mm-hmm.
pop something off. That was from Rohan, who originally was the one who texted me and told me to get downstairs for Ed is talking about M theory. He came through again a couple of months ago. We were working at M Theory. Funnily enough, for those listeners, I don't know, but Rohan got the job at M Theory too. So we went to Berkeley together, met, and then we ended up working for the same company. I had told him about the position. He got the job. I got the job. It was sweet. But he was started working on the Petite Biscuit team, and obviously Rohan knows that I manage Jero, so uh, he threw Jero's name in the ring for the just innocently, like he wasn't pushing, but he had to provide a list of remixer options, and he put Jero in there, and he let me know that he was doing that. And then turns out Petit, his name is Mehdi, he really liked Jero, and he hit us up, and they asked us to remix, and then they loved it. And Jero's such a freak, like he can make shit so fast. So I'm sure they're doing like a more, but he finished his so fast that they were like, we'll just put this out now, which is awesome because it got the attention of a single. It didn't have to get buried in a package. Where Jero is, although he's a great producer, um, he's smaller than probably some other people that would be remixing someone like Petit. So like the ability or the opportunity for it to come out as a single was huge. And you can only submit one song and to release Radar for Spotify
Mhm. Mhm.
from an album even. So we definitely wouldn't have got that. And he has such a massive release Radar, so it's going well so far. I think it has like came out Friday. It has like 250,000 streams already, which is
Wow.
definitely his biggest release
This is
today.
huge.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm so proud of you, JJ.
Thank you. We'll see. There's a lot. It's like it's the first project, not first project, but it Gerald feels like it has a lot of momentum right now, even with everything that's going on. So it's cool to feel that, like it's kind of palpable. Like you can feel when things are happening and people are hitting you up. So hopefully I won't fuck it up and we can make it into a real touring project and break it open. But you can blame me if that doesn't happen.
No, I never. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about electronic music in general, if you have something to say about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm definitely a huge electronic music nerd. Um, like I don't know. I feel like, well, first of all, how I got into it. I just started going. I didn't go to my first concert till I was 17. Like I was pretty late to the game. Um, I went to Lollapalooza. I got a ticket like the day before. Back when Lollapalooza, you were able to do that when I didn't sell out in 4 seconds, and then tickets became $800. I just bought a ticket the day before. Um, and I went and I was like, holy shit, this is the coolest thing. I went to Perry's tent, which if anyone knows, that's like the electronic tent. It used to be an actual tent. I was like 17, never seen a concert before, and I was seeing Skrillex in this tent, and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then it was like I had a great weekend, and then it was just off to the races. I probably saw 200 shows in the next like 3 years, which is a lot for that age. I was just going ham, and then I just fell in love with electronic music. Like I always liked it. I liked it before the shows, but once you start going to all these shows, and I just got super into it. And I think that the reason is because there's so much when you're a band, right? Like there's a guitar, there's I love bands, by the way. I listen to a lot of other music, not electronic. But when you're a band, you have a guitar, a bass, a keyboard, maybe drums, a vocalist. There's a finite amount of things, unless you're getting crazy like an MGMT or Tame Impala. Obviously they're great producers as well, but I think when you're an electronic music producer, there's an infinite amount of sounds that you can create using all these different plugins and whatever filters and anything else, synthesizers. It's like the possibilities are endless. So it always feels fresh, and there's a million. Electronic music is so broad. Like there could be 1,000 genres in there that all go deep, deep into those genres. So I just feel like it's this endless well of cool sounds, and I think like anything, you get a tolerance and you get accustomed to something, and then you want to go deeper into it, like any passion. So I get really into like sound design, and I like really weird sounds and try to
Hmm.
explore the more wook side of things, I guess you would say, in the US, like hippie, weird bass music and stuff. I think it's really cool. I'm always say I'm like a wook on the inside. I don't look like one really, but I would like my girlfriend used to ask me like, "What would you do if you won the lottery?" I used to say like, "I would just go follow Base Nectar for 6 months and just look out." But yeah, I just think that there's so many different genres, and I love all music, but my passion for electronic music comes from being able to hear what. Um,
And are there certain countries where you see the coolest, biggest acts are coming when we talk
uh,
about electronic music, or it's very general?
I don't know. I think that they can come from anywhere. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, that's another thing too, is that there's no language barrier with electronic music. Like, you can produce something in the middle of Amsterdam when you don't. I'm sure everyone there speaks English, but like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no accent, there's no any hindrance. Like, you can just create these sounds that resonate with people. And melody is not a language. It is a language, but it's not everyone speaks it. You know, like if it hits you, then it hits you. So I think that that's a great unifier of electronic music too. Is you can tour the world and everyone can resonate with your music and your chord progressions and your melodies and all that stuff. It's really cool. You know, like you could be in a crowd of 1,000 people speaking 1,000 different languages, and they're sharing an experience that you wouldn't be able to if it was an English speaking band that no one knew what they were saying. Obviously, they can vibe out to it, but if you're dependent so much on your message coming from the words,
Mm-hmm.
there's only a certain number of people who can resonate with it because they don't know the words, you know. That's
Yeah,
something that also intrigues me about electronic music.
that's so beautiful, JJ. I really loved our conversation. And now we will move on a little bit from the music theme. We'll talk a little bit
Hmm.
more general, but it's so like so much knowledge there, so insightful. Thank you, really.
Oh man,
Um, my next question would be, what would you say are your life highlights in
my
general,
life
not
highlight.
necessarily music related or management related?
Okay, I just got engaged earlier this year to Alani. You know Alani.
You are literally
Um,
one of the most beautiful couples I've ever seen. I'm so excited for you guys.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, it's kind of a weird year, like to get engaged because it's mostly negative, but that was a sweet positive. So I would say that was definitely a highlight. We had both our families there. It was just like the most COVID-y social distancing family, but it was awesome. Like we were on a boat and there was no COVID there, which is great. It was COVID free zone. But yeah, we just that was just a highlight. And I don't know. I don't really like think about things that way, honestly. Like I have such high goals. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I always think like I think I have a strong case of, at least I'm talking about career stuff, but like I have like a strong imposter syndrome, I think, which is like no matter what I get to, it feels like, oh, I'm tricking everyone. I'm not actually supposed to be doing this stuff. Like I'm a fraud or like things like that. And think I think that comes a lot from being an independent. Like you don't have the name of your company behind your back to like lean on.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like yourself. So that kind of strips me of a lot of celebrations where I'm just like, all right, whatever. That was what it's like this huge goal for me in the beginning, and then when I get it, I'm like, that wasn't even hard. Like that's not even something
Yeah,
to be proud
yeah,
of.
I
Like that
feel you.
anyone could do that stuff. So terms of highlights, I'd say their career highlights are all in front of me. I hope. And then personal, I've got to go home like 5 times this year because of COVID, so that was awesome. I don't know, just chilling with family usually. I don't do anything crazy mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Berkeley was a pretty sweet year as well. Like that year in hindsight was just like the coolest thing ever. I just lived in Spain.
Agree, agree.
Yeah, you were living your best life out there, I remember.
um, how would you define a success for yourself?
I think the first immediate success that I'm looking for is to build this business to a place where I don't have to do other jobs in the music industry anymore. Like that is the first of I think that's where the game will really start, where I'm going completely full time in management. That's like my first super goal, for me and my partner to be able to do this full time. After that, everything I honestly think after that, everything else is just gonna be a bonus. Like I've always just wanted to be. a manager full time and like pay my
Mm-hmm.
bills and have a solid life. If I end up making a bunch of money, like that's cool, but I'll know that I was happy just being able to do it full time. So I would say that would be the point where hopefully I never have to go. Hopefully things stay trending up and I don't have to go back. But if I ever get to that point and it's sustainable, then that would probably be a success for me. That's what I always try to do. I set low expectations so that if I don't get there, it was okay. And like, or no expectations. You can't fail if you don't have any expectations for yourself.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Uh,
You reach for the stars, you'll miss. Yeah, most of the time. We'll see.
do you have any book, movie, and song recommendations for our listeners?
Book. Oh man, I don't know if you all can tell from this conversation, but I have really bad like ADD or ADHD. So books are like my worst
Wait, what
nightmare.
is ADD? What does it mean?
ADD is attention deficit disorder. It's probably the reason I've been jumping all over the place this entire conversation and I can't remember questions and my brain just goes on all these different tangents and it's hard to focus. So books are like mountains to climb for me. Like I read 10 pages, I'm like I'm so bored. Not bored, like even if it's good, but then like I have to read the same page 6 times because I'm thinking about other things, and I'm just my eyes are reading it, but I'm not even downloading anything. So books, I've read probably 6 books in the past 3 years, but like this one's really good. All you need to know about the music business for keeping it on brand. This is not a very fun answer at all. It's like a textbook almost.
No, the fun thing is that like two people probably recommended it already, so
All right, I
it
have to
means
pick
that
a
it's a
different
really
one.
good book.
It's like it's just like the Bible of the music industry. I'm trying to look. What else? If you ever read the book, The Curious Case of the Dog in the Nighttime, I read that in about 7th grade. Let me see if that's the real title. Let me look this up. It's a really strange book. It was like blew my mind in 7th grade. It's about this guy who has, yeah, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Go read that book if you just want to absolutely explode your mind. It's about this
Okay.
kid who has some sort of, I think, autism, but it's written almost like as if the author had autism. Like, you know how they think in completely different ways? So it's incredible. For me, it was fascinating to read it from like the perspective. It wasn't about someone. I can't fully remember, but it was written from that feel. So it was really interesting. It was cool. That's the only book I've ever like read in one sitting, and it was like 15 years ago. So I clearly don't read books.
How about movies and songs?
Songs.
Maybe something you really loved recently. Something
I've
like
been
that.
super into the band Sticky Fingers from Australia. It's like Australian reggae rock type vibes, but really dope. Another band that those are my two favorite bands are Sticky Fingers and this band called Palace from the UK. They're awesome. They're like British rock, really vibey, spaced out sometimes. It's like they can go from beach rock, surf rock vibes to spaced out down tempo rock. I don't know, but they're really awesome. That was the last show I saw before COVID. Um,
Mm.
so we'll see.
And movie
And
or
movie,
series?
uh, series, movies. I don't like. I don't know. I love movies, but I can never think of them when people ask me. I just watched all of Love Island. You ever seen that?
It's a show on Netflix.
It's like is it Netflix? It's Netflix or Hulu or something, but it's like the British version of The Bachelor, but it's not as cringy. It's like I don't know. I
Okay.
love trash TV. Me and Alani watch trash TV all the time. We're either watching like last night we went from this absolute garbage television show on MTV, like people in a house, to a documentary about brain surgeons, and I was like, "Whoa, that's our two extremes. There's no like in between."
Um, do you have a celebrity crush?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would say my most recent, my first. I'll go both. I'll go my first ever, and then my most recent. My first ever was Kate Winslet from Titanic. I was like, oh my god,
Mm.
she's. I was in love with her. I think that was my first love. And then uh, my most recent would probably be like Emily Ratajkowski. I would say I have a big crush on her. She's so unique looking now, but it's over now. She has a baby. I have no chance. It's official. I was holding on. No, that like broke so many guys' hearts around the world. All these guys who pretended they had a chance with her, they're like, no, their dreams come crushing.
Oh my god, you're funny. What is the most useless talent that you have?
I can do a Rubik's cube.
Mm.
It's really useless. Like even people that love me don't care. You know, even like my family, they don't even acknowledge that it's cool. So like definitely strangers don't care.
And the last question for today would be, who inspires you the most?
That's a good question. I mean, inspires me. Like I feel obviously there's people who you try to model yourself after, like in terms of business, like uh, the one of the guys that I look after and try to emulate to a millionth of a degree is this guy named Mo Shalizi. He manages Marshmallow. He like built that whole campaign, and it was just like the biggest crush ever. And he started out just managing DJs. Really cool to see him go like independently and just do that whole thing. Is awesome to watch, and I've been following him super closely, like as a fan and just someone that inspires me that way. But honestly, like in terms of my personality and stuff, like I think like I was watching this is so random, but I was watching that surgery show yesterday. This guy was Greek fetal doctor. He like pioneered all the fetal medicine. And he was just such a fucking boss, like nicest guy ever, but so calm and confident. He got off. He loved like helping people, and I always feel like most inspired by those people who are like the unsung heroes, and I'm like they want me to be they make me want to be a better person. Like also they make me feel like a huge piece of shit because I just like play video games and these
No.
guys are like curing cancer. Like god. But like they do inspire me when I watch those types of I feel like I get inspired by the medical profession a lot because they're so altruistic and they want to help people even and the music industry like doesn't really have that, so maybe it's something that I'm longing for. I feel like I'm in therapy. I'm coming up with all these things right now. But like maybe that's something that like you don't really get fulfillment from in the music industry. But yeah, I like seeing those kind of stories.
That's beautiful. Love this answer. And honestly, JJ, thank you for being here today. You
Yeah, thank you.
really, you really are something, and you have the brightest future ahead of you for sure. You've like even up till this point, you had so much success already with your artists. You started literally from nothing, and you're really inspirational. And even though I know you, I feel like I learned a lot from this conversation today. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks. It was awesome. It was good to talk to you. Good to see you.
Thank you, JJ. Bye.
All right. Cheers. Bye bye.